Hey everybody, in this video I'm going to show you 3 of the best builds for solo beginners in Albion Online. First up, for all you melee DPS enthusiasts, we have a very classic and very strong melee build with the dual swords as the weapon. For the core of your build, along with the dual swords, you're going to want to go with the hunter hood, mercenary jacket, and soldier boots. This build can actually be a pretty good option for PvE. You want to take the abilities on your dual sword for your Q, heroic cleave, for your W, blade cyclone, and for your passive, deep cuts. And then on your armor, your helmet, you can go energy regain, chest piece bloodlust, and boots rejuvenating sprint. For the extra pieces of your build in the cape, food, and potions, a Thetford cape is the best option, although not necessary. For your food, you want to either go with some sort of health regen food, so things like soup or fish, and then for potions, it's poison potions. Of these extra options, cape, food, and potions, the only one you really need is the food to get that extra regen to heal you up in between combat, so take some cabbage soup or some type of fish. In terms of your playstyle for PvE, since most of your damage is area of effect on your E and on your W and all of your Qs, you can take down groups of mobs pretty easily, but you can use that auto attack buff that you get from your E to take down the strongest mob in a pull. One nice option you have for PvE is if you find yourself not running out of energy or having energy sustain issues, or you're against a particularly hard mob like a boss, you can swap out your helmet ability for either cleanse or retaliate. For PvE with the dual swords, my recommended activity would be going into the open world and killing mobs. Looking at PvP now with this dual swords build, we're going to be changing up our ability slightly. For your dual swords on the Q, you're going to go to heroic strike. On the W, it's very combat specific, so once you get more experienced, you can switch this around a lot. However, to start out, blade cyclone is a pretty good option, and then for your passive, you're going to want to use weakening. For your armor abilities, it's retaliate on your hunter hood, bloodlust on your mercenary jacket, and rejuvenating sprint on your boots. For your cape, food, and potions, the cape, we're going to want to be using an undead cape ideally, however that is one of the most expensive options, so if you want something a little bit cheaper although still want to bring a special cape along, a bridgewash cape is another great option. For food and potions, beef stews are the food you want to go with, and healing potions for the potions. For PvP, this build with the dual swords is an extremely strong, just run you down sort of playstyle against your opponent. You can basically go in with your E and then just keep the pressure up until either you die or they die. A good tip can be to comboing that E auto attack buff with the mercenary jacket to get all of that healing value, and using your hunter hood to retaliate their big damage. For PvPing with this dual swords build, my recommended activity would be either going into corrupted dungeons for that 1v1 environment or into the mists. If you're enjoying this content, feel free to subscribe because there's a lot more like it on my channel. Next on the list, we have a one-handed nature build with a good mix of healing and damage. This build is a pretty easy one to play that can thrive in most environments. So along with our one-handed nature staff, we're going to be going with a torch for our offhand, a mage cowl for our helmet, a quare robe for our chest piece, and mercenary shoes for the boots. For PvE, the spells you want to take is on your nature staff, Q will be thorn growth, W will be bramble seed or revitalize for strong mobs and bosses, and then for your passive energetic. For your abilities on your armor, poison on your helmet, everlasting spirit on your chest piece, and refreshing sprint for your shoes. For cape, food, and potions, none of them are really required for this build. That is quite strong at PvE without them, but if you want to spice up your build for a little bit more money, you can go with the Thetford cape, beef stew, and poison potions. This build really is a specialist PvE build. It is very good, if not the best, just overall build at doing solo PvE, killing mobs. With a good mix of healing and damage, as well as a lot of AoE damage with abilities, and strong single target damage with auto attacks, it really just is an amazing weapon that can deal with almost any PvE situation. The general playstyle is to use your spells like your Q on the groups of mobs, and then auto attack down the strongest one of them. One tip here is that if you find yourself running out of energy while you're PvEing, the main thing you probably need to do is auto attack more to proc your passive energetic. For my recommended activity as PvEing with this nature staff build, really any single PvE works. This is such a good build for PvE that you can go the open world, you can go roads, you can go dungeons, all of it is very good. Looking at PvP, the abilities we're going to go with are Thorn Growth on your Q, your W will be Revitalize and your passive Energetic, and then on your armor, poison for your helmet, everlasting spirit for your chest, and refreshing sprint for your shoes. For your cape, food, and potions, Undead Cape is again the best option for PvP, although again it is quite expensive, so if you want a cheaper option you can go with the Thetford Cape, and then for your food and potions it's beef stews and poison potions. In PvP, this build is more of a kiting sort of build. It's not the best at necessarily going in out of its way to kill opponents, but it can be quite survivable with healing and good kiting potential. Because of this, you want to focus on staying alive and kiting enemies, using your poison potion and your poison from your mage cowl together to slowly whittle them down. One cool combo that you can do with this build is you can combo your chest piece and W together for a really nice heal, as you will get that immunity to not cancel your heal and the healing buff from the chest piece, meaning they combo together really well to basically heal you back up to full HP if you do it successfully. For PvPing with this build, my recommended activity is something in the open world, because in the Mists or Corrupted Dungeons, your healing will be reduced by a debuff, so you want to stay mainly in the open world. One thing to note also is that you can translate into group play as a healer really well with this build. Last but not least, we have a very simple but very strong build and playstyle with the normal bow. This build does a ton of single target damage and can shred anything down, so if you like that playstyle, this might be for you. For the core of our build, along with our normal bow, we're going with the Hunter Hood, Cleric Robe, and Guardian Boots. For PvE, the spells you want to take on your bow are for Q, Deadly Shot, W, Ray of Light, or Explosive Arrows once you get it unlocked, and then for your passive Energetic. For your abilities on your armor, it's Retaliate on your hood, Everlasting Spirit on your chest, and Rejuvenating Sprint on your shoes. For cape, food, and potions, again, none of these are really required except for the food. For your cape, Thetford Cape is good. For your food, any regeneration food for your health, so soup or fish. And then for potions, we have poison potions. For PvE, this build is very good at bosses and single mobs, but it's less good for groups of mobs. You really have mostly single target auto attack damage, so you want to be focusing down the most problematic mobs first and trying to separate pulls into just 1 or 2 mobs at a time. For PvEing with this build, my recommended activity would be going into the open world and killing the mobs there. For PvP, we're going to switch up our abilities very slightly. On your bow, Q, you're going to want to go Multi-Shot. W, you want to go Ray of Light, or again, Explosive Arrows once you get it unlocked. And then for your passive, Piercing Arrows. On your armor, it's Retaliate on your hood, Everlasting Spirit on your chest, and then Giant on your boots. For cape, food, and potions, Bridgewatch Cape is the best cape to go for. For food, it's beef stews, and for potions, it's healing potions. In terms of these extra cape, food, and potions, again, none of them are super important for the build. Food is probably the most important of the 3 though. For your playstyle in PvP, you're really just trying to focus down one single enemy, which you do simply by auto-attacking them, which means most of what you need to do is cycle through your armor abilities or defensive abilities while you're just sitting there auto-attacking them to make sure that you survive as long as possible, giving yourself enough time to burn them down. So once you've chosen your target and have your E buff active and started attacking them, just focus on cycling through your chest, helmet, and shoes, making sure you don't overlap them at all. For PvPing with this normal bow build, my recommended activity would be going into Corrupted Dungeons. Okay, and there are 3 of the best builds for solo beginner players in Albion. I hope this video helped you out. If it did, make sure to subscribe for all of the other similar stuff that's coming out, and do all the other stuff you do to YouTube videos. Thanks, and I'll see you next time.